She pointed her phone at me like it was a weapon and shouted, "You don't belong here. I'm calling the cops." Asterisk, my hands were full of balloons and cake trays, but I still managed to say, "Ma'am, this is my property. I live here." Asterisk, she didn't care. She took a step closer, nose wrinkled like she smelled something rotten. Asterisk, you think just because you bought that dump, you can bring your kind into this neighborhood? Asterisk, my wife 8 months pregnant stood behind me, holding her belly and trying not to cry. My niece handed her a glass of water, whispering, "Ignore her, Auntie. She's crazy." But Karen wasn't done. She pulled out a wrinkled paper from her bag and waved it in my face. "As head of the HOA, I'm issuing you a fine for unauthorized gathering, illegal decorations, and disturbing the peace. Baby showers are not allowed. On weekends." Asterisk, that's when I noticed it. The HOA seal was photocopied and crooked. No signature, no address. Just some rules she probably typed up herself. Asterisk, I looked over at our backyard. There were folding chairs, pink streamers, a rented table full of gifts and cupcakes. Family, friends, nothing wild. No loud music, no alcohol, just love. Asterisk, I took a slow breath. I checked with the city before we planned this. We're within all limits. Asterisk, she laughed loud and dry. You think city law matters here? I am the law here. Asterisk, and then, just like that, she dialed 911 and said, "Yes, I need officers right away. There's a hostile man trespassing. He's threatening me." Asterisk, I couldn't believe it. I looked straight at her, calm as ever, and said, "Asterisk, Karen, you just made a very big mistake." Asterisk, she smirked like she'd already won. But she had no idea. This hostile man she just reported, I was once the youngest federal judge appointed in this entire state, and I had every bit of that power, still sleeping in my back pocket. Asterisk, you called the police on a judge, Karen. Good luck with it. That? Asterisk, the cops arrived faster than I expected. 2 cruisers, lights flashing, sirens off. Karen walked right into the middle of the driveway like she was welcoming them home. Asterisk there. She pointed at me dramatically. He's threatening a pregnant woman and refusing to leave? He's trespassing on private property. Asterisk, one officer stepped out, hand already resting on his belt. "Sir, we need you to calm down and step away from the woman." Asterisk, I didn't move. I looked right at him and said, "Officer, I am the husband. This is our baby shower. This is our house. She doesn't live here." Asterisk, Karen's smile faded for half a second. "That's a lie. They're squatters. They moved in without permission. This whole thing is illegal. I run this HOA." Asterisk, the second officer frowned. "Ma'am, do you have any proof of that?" Asterisk, Karen, clearly flustered, waved that same fake HOA notice again. "This is all the proof I need." He broke the HOA event policy. Asterisk, the first officer looked at the paper, then gave me a look. "Sir, do you have any ID or proof you live here?" Asterisk, I walked to the porch, opened the door, and pulled out a folder from the inside table. Title deed, utility bills, even a zoning approval from city council. I handed it to him without a word. He took one look, and his whole face shifted. "Well, this checks out. Completely." Asterisk, Karen's voice raised an octave. "Wait, no, that can't be real. That house has violations. I reported them. There's supposed to be a lien." Asterisk, but the second officer cut her off. "Ma'am, nothing you've provided is official. Said unless you live here or were invited, you're the one trespassing now." She turned pale, but I wasn't done. Asterisk, I stepped forward, calm and steady. "Hey, would you like to know what else is illegal? Filing a false police report, harassment, forging HOA documents, and impersonating an officer of the court?" Asterisk, Karen's mouth opened. No words came out. Asterisk, I stared right at her and said, "You just accused a federal judge of trespassing on his own land. In front of 2 cops?" Asterisk, the silence was so thick, even the birds stopped chirping. Asterisk, then came the viral line I knew everyone at the party would be talking about later. Asterisk, next time you forge a law, Karen, make sure you're not standing in front of the man who wrote it. Her face went red, and then she did something no one expected. Asterisk, she pulled out her phone, hit record, and screamed, "This is racism. He's attacking me. I feel unsafe." The cops looked at each other, and I whispered to my wife, "Sweetheart, go inside and grab the security footage. She's just dug her own grave." Asterisk, my wife didn't even say a word. She just nodded and walked back inside, slow and steady, her hand resting on her belly like she was protecting more than just our baby. She was protecting peace. Asterisk, Karen kept recording, yelling nonsense into her phone. "They're threatening me. They've trapped me here. I'm a white woman in danger." Asterisk, the first officer tried to calm her down. "Ma'am, you need to stop shouting. You're not under threat." Asterisk, but she wouldn't listen. She started circling the driveway like she was building a case for court TV. "I'll have this entire neighborhood on my side. You people don't belong here?" Asterisk, "You people?" I said quietly. Asterisk, her eyes met mine, and for the first time, she hesitated. That's when my wife returned, holding a flash drive. "Everything's backed up on this. 3 angles, front porch, backyard even. The sidewalk." Asterisk, I handed it to the officer. "You'll see who really owns this house. You'll also see her trespassing yesterday, when she peeled off our welcome sign and called my sister-in-law a baby mama." Asterisk, Karen's jaw locked. She turned to the officers like she still had a chance. "He edited that footage. You can't trust these people. They lie for a living." Asterisk. But the second officer was already walking back to the cruiser, plugging the flash drive into their onboard system. His partner leaned toward Karen, lowering his voice. "Asterisk, ma'am, if this footage confirms what he's saying, you're going to be facing some serious charges." Asterisk, Karen laughed loud, desperate. "You can't charge me. I am the HOA president. I own this neighborhood." Asterisk, I stepped closer, voice calm but sharp. "You were removed from that position 6 months ago. The real HOA board sent out the notice. But you ignored it, just like you ignored the law." Her eyes widened like she'd just heard something she wasn't supposed to. I continued. "Your so-called power ended the day you filed those fake liens. I saw the paperwork. You used a dead lawyer's name as the authorizing agent." Asterisk, Karen suddenly looked like she couldn't breathe. "You... ... How do you know all this?" Asterisk, "I told you," I said, my voice like steel. "No. I'm a retired federal judge. I spent 20 years locking up people who thought the law didn't apply to them. You're not the first Karen with a clipboard. You might be the last one who tries this with me." Asterisk, right then, the officer at the cruiser walked back, holding the flash drive. His face said everything. "She lied," he told his partner. "Footage shows her trespassing on 3 separate days, screaming threats, and damaging property." Man and his wife were calm the entire time. Even warned her to leave, ... politely. Asterisk, Karen panicked. "This is a setup. They edited the files. I demand an investigation." Asterisk, I folded my arms. "Oh, there will be one." Asterisk, and just as she turned to actually run down the street in her flip-flops, the officer grabbed her by the arm. Asterisk, Karen Thompson said clearly, "You're being detained for filing a false police report, harassment, and trespassing. You have the right to remain silent, ... The guests on the porch clapped. My wife. She exhaled like she hadn't breathed in 20 minutes. Asterisk and I whispered to her. This baby shower just turned into a courtroom drama, ... and we won. Karen thrashed like a toddler in a tantrum. "Get your hands off me, I pay your salary. I'm a homeowner." Asterisk, the officer didn't flinch. "You've been impersonating a legal authority, ma'am. It's a felony in this state." Asterisk, as they walked her toward the cruiser, she shouted over her shoulder, "You think this is over? My lawyer will make you regret this. I have powerful friends." Asterisk, I didn't even bother responding. I just stood there, arms crossed, watching her world unravel one lie at a time. Asterisk, my uncle came over, handed me a soda, and said, "You sure know how to throw a baby shower, Judge." Asterisk, my niece was already editing the footage for TikTok. We're calling it Karen gets convicted at a baby shower. #HOA hell. But just as we were starting to relax, something strange happened. The second officer came back from the cruiser and looked tense. Asterisk. There's something you should know, he said to me, voice low. This isn't the first complaint filed. Against you? Asterisk. My smile faded. Excuse me? Asterisk. He glanced at my wife, then back at me. Karen wasn't acting alone. 2 other anonymous reports came in this past week: zoning violations, supposed noise complaints, even an accusation that you threatened another neighbor. My jaw tightened. She was building a case, I said slowly. Asterisk, he nodded. A fake one. Paper trail's thin, but it looks like she was planning something bigger. We're pulling surveillance now. Asterisk. My wife stepped closer, holding my arm. What does this mean? Asterisk. I looked at her belly, then at the officer. It means this wasn't just a bad neighbor. Someone was helping her. And if they went this far over a baby shower, they're not done yet. Asterisk, the officer hesitated, then said, There's one more thing. The name used to file those other complaints. I waited, heart beating harder. He showed me the form. Asterisk it. Wasn't Karen's handwriting? Asterisk. It was signed. By the president of the HOA board. The real one. The one who was supposed to have removed Karen. Like 6 months ago, that's when it hit me. Karen wasn't rogue. She was working with the board. And the fake notice on my door? It wasn't fake after all. It was bait. They were trying to force us out. I turned toward the house, eyes scanning the street. Asterisk, this wasn't over. Not even close. Asterisk, and suddenly, I knew. This wasn't just about a party. This was about who was allowed to live here, and someone in power had just made it personal. I didn't say anything right away. I just stood there, staring at that signature, clean, bold, official looking. The real HOA president, Alan Brooks, asterisk, the same man who had smiled at us on move-in day, shook my hand and said, Welcome to the neighborhood. We're happy to have you, asterisk. I should have known. Too polished, too rehearsed. Asterisk, my wife saw the shift in my face. What is it? Asterisk, I turned to her. Alan's behind this. Karen was just the front. Asterisk, the officer confirmed it. We cross-checked some emails. Karen filed complaints using an account that was recently accessed from Alan Brooks' IP address. We're launching an internal investigation, but it looks like a coordinated push to scare you out of this neighborhood. Asterisk, my wife's hand tightened around mine, but why? Asterisk, because, I said, eyes narrowing, we don't fit their mold. We're not the type. They want living here. Immigrant family, pregnant wife, guests in the driveway. Shakes their little glass world. Asterisk, I looked back at the patrol car, where Karen now sat head down, hands cuffed, still muttering. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I walked inside, opened my old briefcase, and pulled out a sealed leather folder. My federal credentials. My wife blinked. You really doing this? Asterisk, I nodded. It's time they remembered who they messed with. Asterisk, I walked back outside, the folder under my arm. The officers straightened when they saw the badge. Asterisk, judge, when asked carefully. Asterisk, retired, I said, but not powerless. Asterisk, I flipped open the folder and showed them the sealed court order. I had kept a standing federal injunction against discriminatory housing actions, one I had personally overseen back in my court days. I had a copy for good reason. I'd written the clause for situations exactly like this. Asterisk, I looked the officer dead in the eye. Under Title 8 of the Civil Rights Act, any coordinated effort to harass or displace a homeowner due to race, origin, or familial status is a federal violation. And I have legal cause to reopen this case as of today. Asterisk, he nodded slowly. Now fully realizing the depth of the situation, but just then, my phone buzzed. It was an email. From someone anonymous, asterisk subject line. They're watching you, asterisk. I opened it. Etched was a screenshot. Asterisk. It was a photo of my wife. From the grocery store. 2 days ago. Asterisk. Taken from behind. No face. Just her back. Her belly. The shopping. Cart dot asterisk. No note, no explanation. Asterisk, just that chilling feeling that we were being watched long before today. Asterisk, I showed the officer. His face dropped. You need to install cameras. Now. Asterisk, I nodded slowly, then looked back at the house. My home. This was never just about HOA rules or baby showers. This was war. And Karen was just the opening shot, but now. Now they had my attention, and they'd just made one fatal mistake. They threatened my family. Asterisk, the next morning. I woke up before the sun. I couldn't sleep. My wife was still curled up beside me, hand resting on her belly like she was guarding a treasure. Asterisk, I slipped out of bed and went straight to my home office. I hadn't touched that room in months since retirement, and now it didn't feel like retirement anymore. It felt like preparation. Asterisk, I opened the file cabinet and pulled out 3 folders marked Federal Housing Law, Neighborhood Council Records, and HOA internal audits. This wasn't just personal. Now it was tactical. I brewed some coffee, sat down, and began tracing every signature. Every HOA amendment, every board member name tied to Alan Brooks. Asterisk within an hour, I had a connection. Asterisk, Alan had approved 8 home citations in the last 3 months. Every one of them was against families who weren't white. Asterisk, Latino, Asian, Black, immigrant. The pattern was crystal clear. I picked up my phone and made a single call. Asterisk, Marcy. It's me. Asterisk, a pause. Then a warm voice on the other end. Judge. I haven't heard from you since your last ruling. Asterisk, I need you to dust off your journalist badge. Remember that housing discrimination piece you wanted to blow open? I've got something. And this time, it's on record. Asterisk, she didn't even hesitate. Where do I start? I gave her the names, the timeline, the footage. Give me 24 hours, she said. This story's going national. But just as I hung up, I heard a thud outside. I rushed to the window. There was a truck pulling away and marked. A man in a gray hoodie had just jumped into the passenger seat. Asterisk on my lawn, sign spray-painted across it in red. Asterisk, go back to where you came from. My fists clenched. I stepped outside slowly. The morning air was cold, sharp. Neighbors were peeking from behind curtains, some pretending they didn't see anything. One of them, a woman I'd waved at every week, shut her blinds as soon as I looked at her. Asterisk, I knelt down and picked up the broken pieces of our welcome. Sin now stomped into the grass. Asterisk, my wife stood behind me, arms crossed over her belly. Silent. Asterisk, she didn't say, I'm scared. Asterisk, she didn't say we should leave. Asterisk, she just whispered, they want us to break. I looked up at her and said what I hadn't said out loud yet. They picked the wrong family. That afternoon, the article dropped. Front page, headline, bold asterisk HOA harassment. Ex-federal judge targeted in racial push-out scheme. Asterisk, the footage went viral. Karen's meltdown, her arrest, the fake notice, the baby shower interruption.
Asterisk.
Asterisk, but what made it explode? That one line I said, replayed over and over again. Next time you forge a law, Karen, make sure you're not standing in front of the man who wrote it. The public wasn't just watching anymore. They were choosing sides. Asterisk and Alan Brooks. He hadn't shown his face since the article dropped, but I knew. He was still watching, and now he was cornered. Asterisk. Time for the real trial to begin. By the time the sun set that evening, everything had changed. Asterisk reporters had started circling the neighborhood. A few bold ones knocked on doors trying to get quotes. Most of the neighbors pretended they didn't hear. Silent guilt has a way of making people deaf. But not everyone stayed quiet. An older black couple from 3 houses down came by with a casserole. The husband nodded at me and said, We've been dealing with Alan for years. He'd find us once because our grandkids left a bike in the driveway. I'm glad someone finally stood up to him. Asterisk, another neighbor, dropped off a handwritten letter. Apology. Support. She said she felt trapped between fear and truth. Told us Karen used to knock on her door and demand she report suspicious activity. It was happening. The story wasn't just ours anymore. It was bigger. Asterisk. But just as we started to feel that wave of support, the twist came. Asterisk. Around 10 p.m. The letter was slid under our door. No knock, no voice. Just silence. Asterisk. It was typed. No name. No return address. Asterisk greater than you may have won the public. But you haven't won the board? Your property will be reviewed for zoning violations next week. You'll be removed. Ow. One way or another. I stared at the letter, heart thumping like a war drum. That's when my wife turned to me and said, "They're not stopping. It's even after the cameras, even after the arrest." Asterisk. I nodded because this isn't about rules. It's about power. Asterisk. She placed her hand on my chest, eyes fierce. "Then take it back." Asterisk. I stared at her. This woman carrying our child, standing in the middle of a battle no pregnant woman should ever face, and she wasn't backing down. Asterisk. I took a deep breath. Walked to the garage and opened an old locked cabinet. Asterisk. Inside, a box labeled contingency. Asterisk. I pulled it down, dusted it off, opened it. Asterisk. Inside were records, photos, testimonies, sealed copies of past lawsuits I had privately documented over the years, ones that never made it to trial. Asterisk. C. I wasn't just a judge. Asterisk. I was once assigned to a federal task force that investigated corrupt neighborhood councils. Asterisk. And Alan Brooks. His name wasn't new to me. He had been flagged 8 years ago. But no one ever filed. No one had enough proof. Until now. And I wasn't just going to defend my house anymore. Asterisk. I was going to bring the whole damn structure down. Asterisk. Because when you push a man far enough, threaten his wife, his child, his home, ... Asterisk. You don't just get resistance, you get reckoning. The next morning, I put on a suit, not because I had to, because I wanted them to remember who I was. Asterisk. I stood on my own porch. Coffee in one hand, sealed legal file in the other, waiting for the HOA board's emergency meeting. They scheduled it without. Telling me thought they could vote to revoke our occupancy, citing community disruption. But they forgot something. This wasn't their courtroom. It was mine now. Asterisk. At exactly 9 a.m., I walked into the HOA community center like I owned the floorboards. Because legally, after last night's research I kind of did, Asterisk. Alan Brooks sat at the center of the board table, trying to look calm. His hands trembled when I placed the folder in front of him. Asterisk. What's this supposed to be? He sneered. Asterisk. Evidence, I said quietly, of federal code violations, racial targeting, and unauthorized HOA amendments, signed by you, backdated. I also included a copy of the whistleblower footage from your last closed-door meeting. He paled. Where'd you get that? Asterisk. I smiled. You should have looked up who installed your security system. Gasps around the room. Another board member pushed her chair back. I'm not going down for this. I told you this was going too far, Alan. Asterisk. He snapped. Don't you dare. But I cut in. I'm giving you 2 options, I said, calm and deliberate. Option 1, you all resign. Today, you issue a public apology, reinstate every homeowner you've harassed, and dissolve this board. I don't sue. I don't press charges. I walk away. Asterisk. Alan scoffed. And option 2? I leaned forward. I take this case federal. I name every member here as co-conspirators. You'll be indicted for conspiracy to violate civil housing law, misuse of funds, fraudulent enforcement, and targeted harassment. In this neighborhood, I looked around. It becomes a headline no one will forget. Silence. Then one by one, chairs began to scrape back. Asterisk. Resignations. All of them. Asterisk. Alan tried to bluff one last time. You don't scare me? Asterisk. I stepped closer. I'm not trying to scare you, Alan. I'm trying to save you from prison. That shut him up. By noon, it was over. Asterisk Karen had already been charged. The HOA board resigned. The city opened an inquiry into the neighborhood's zoning practices asterisk and us. We threw another baby shower, this time with the whole block invited. Asterisk neighbors came forward. Real conversations happened. Someone brought ribs. Someone brought music. My wife laughed like I hadn't seen in weeks. Asterisk, and when it was time to make a toast, I said just one thing. Asterisk, I didn't fight for this country, spend years upholding justice, and raise a family. To be told I don't belong on my own land, this is our home, and it always will be. Asterisk people clapped. Someone wiped a tear. Asterisk later that night. As the party lights dimmed and the sky filled with stars, my wife leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, "You really did it." I kissed her forehead. "No," I said softly. "We did." Asterisk. And in that quiet moment, with justice served, family safe, and freedom intact, I knew we didn't just survive them. Asterisk. We buried their lies in the very ground they tried to steal.